The Front Row Show does not reflect the views of Utah State Athletics, or its affiliates.
Excuse me, what the hell's going on out here?
I wish I could say something that was classy and inspirational, but that just wouldn't be our style.
Stick this in your trophy case.
The Aggies are halfway through training camp with the final scrimmage coming up on Saturday. We're prepping by previewing the Aggie offense this week on The Front Row Show. What is up, Aggie fans? Welcome to another episode of The Front Row Show. As always, we are your hosts. I'm Matt Sonnenberg.
I'm Lance Rasmussen.
And I'm Jeff Browning. As always, Aggie Nation, you can get in touch with us on Twitter at USU Front Row. Follow the whole network, Rock Jocks, Agent 3371, Junkies, all those guys. Make sure you're visiting the website, YouTube page. Everyone kind of went on vacation at the same time, so we apologize there hasn't been any new content up. We'll rectify that.
That's my bad. I was camping.
Yeah, that was kind of Matt's fault. He decided to eviscerate and leave. But we'll get that taken care of. As Matt, you said in the intro, this week, it's the focus on the offense. But we thought first we would dissect the scrimmage that took place on Wednesday night, which was last night at the time of this recording, and just talk a little bit about what we saw and kind of our thoughts on fall camp to this point as it's reached the midway.
Yeah, first thing, my first impression, and I've been a huge skeptic. I've been, very reserved on giving credit to the wide receivers, but you can see the progress now. It is very noticeable. It is very apparent, especially if you went to camp early on. You can see how much progress they've made, and it really showed in this scrimmage Wednesday. Travis Reynolds had a nice little touchdown on a trick play. JoJo Natson was all over. That guy has just found a way to get the ball and get open, and it looks like he and Chucky Keaton are really developing something together. And then Hayden Wickers.
That's my
freshman
guy right there.
I mean, that's your boy, Jeff. He got open a few times. There was one play where he broke loose down the middle. There was some great protection by the offensive line to give Keaton time to throw. He found Wickers for, I think it was a 42-yard hookup. So, I mean, these guys, they're not there yet. I can't in my own opinion say they're there yet, but they're getting there. And it's encouraging to see the progress so far.
The thing that stood out to me is, first off, we learned absolutely nothing new about the one defense. They are beastly, they're nasty, and they will shut anybody down. Now, the number 2 defense, I think, is still getting there, and they still had moments that was obviously very good, but I think the offense really is starting to find a rhythm where at the first of camp, we both had concerns about the offense, in particular the wide receivers. We'll talk about them more. I just look at what we've seen so far in camp, and you can't just help but go, my gosh, this team is good. They are good, and they are loaded everywhere. And it's hard not to be overconfident, but from what we've seen, I'm pretty confident in this team.
I know it's a hot button issue, and a lot of people really get freaked out by the whole idea of actually saying this. I think we're better than last year.
Yes.
Whether or not that's actually going to end up showing up on our record is obviously debatable. But I think we are returning a team that is better trained, they're better prepared, not necessarily better motivated, but I think they're more focused isn't the way to put it either.
Well, they know how to win.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they've been through the whole progression thing, starting with the heartbreaking losses that we used to endure, to figuring out how to win those close games, to starting to just whack teams upside the head like we did last year en route to an 11-2. This team has gone through that progression to where you can be confident that they are better, because they're not going to listen to us and say, oh, those guys think we're better, therefore we don't have to go as hard. They go harder this year than they did last year, and that's impressive.
I think evidence of that is, the comments that Matt Wells and Chucky Keaton and Zach Vigil had after the first day of practice, talking about the new guys saying, they're lost, because I think there's a new level of intensity that's just carried over from 2011 and 2012, that these guys that, like you said, they learned how to win over that span. And in 2012, they showed that they're going to keep winning, and at this point, they expect it of themselves. They don't want to lose. They expect themselves to go out and win every game, and that's the mentality that trickles down to everybody. And I think, like you said, Lance, yes, I do think we're going to be better this year than last year, because the experience. Look how many guys we have returning that were a part of that 2012 squad. A lot of the guys we're plugging in look like fantastic additions. Look at Maurice Alexander. Look at Rashard Stewart stepping in at cornerback. Look at Jeremy Morris, who's had a nice camp. Quentin Bird coming back from injury. And, Nick Vigil coming off a red shirt. All these guys are coming in, going to continue the tradition that we set last year, essentially. And while, maybe this season we might not win 10 games in the regular season, I think, regardless of what the record shows, we're going to be a better team. It's just we're going to be facing a little bit tougher challenges, too.
Especially right out of the gate. I mean, really, those first 7 games and 5 are on the road. That's tough for any team. But this is a team that I believe is physical enough, has the skill in order to do it. And we've seen all this through the camp so far. For you Aggie fans who want to know, the next scrimmage is this Saturday. And it's at 6 p.m. at Romney Stadium. It's the Family Fun Day. It's a good opportunity to come out and watch. I mean, these practices are open.
It's really the best opportunity for
awesome.
fall camp goes. I mean, this is where they're battle tested now.
We are degenerates and we have no life, admittedly, but we schedule our lives around when practices are. One of us is almost always there, and it's a great time just sitting there for a couple of hours and just watching them. It's fun to watch them practice, and I'm not sure you can say that about very many teams.
And there was a good turnout at the scrimmage Wednesday, too. Yeah. A lot of people came out, and there's a lot of good things to see. A couple other quick notes. Kyler Fackrell, obviously, is amazing. He had, 3 sacks in that game?
Captain America
Torrey
himself.
Green is a sophomore linebacker that I think not a lot of people know, but he's got some potential. He's not as bulky as you might expect. He's 6'2", 220 is what he's listed at right now. But he had a couple nice plays where he showed off some speed, showed some hitting ability, and could be a little glimpse into the future of some linebacking depth. And one thing that I think a lot of people might be interested in is Jeff Manning.
I was just going to bring that
Looked as good as he has ever in practice. I mean, he was finding receivers. He was the victim of one drop and then one where the receiver kind of seemed to give up on a really pretty deep ball.
I don't know what that was.
But other than that, he was dialed in. He looked good, made some good decisions with the ball, and that was encouraging. Obviously, it's a process. For young quarterbacks, it's rare for a guy like a Chucky Keaton to step right in and be effective. And even he took his lumps early on in his freshman season. But the progress is encouraging. And the more we see that, the luxury we have is that we have time to develop these young quarterbacks like Jeff Manning, like Darryl Garrettson, and even Jordan Brown to an extent. And then one other quick note is that if you're paying attention, you would have noticed that starting alongside Nevin Lawson was indeed Rashard Stewart, who looks to have grabbed that opposite cornerback
His
position
camp has
job.
been awesome.
He's been amazing in camp. But then you look at the second team defense and we run out Jeremy Morris and Tay Glover Wright, a guy that everyone thought was going to be the natural successor to Will Davis over there. And man, that position looks really good.
Well, I mean, we've even seen they've moved Marwin Evans, who was supposed to come and be our JC transfer, into that position specifically to try to cover that. He's now a safety and is looking like he could potentially redshirt next year because we're so deep in our defensive backfield, which was not something any of us were expecting.
Which is great because, when you have a couple seniors in that defensive backfield, if you can get one of those stud junior college transfers and have the luxury to redshirt them, that's phenomenal. I mean, we only get Mo Alexander at safety for 1 year. He's going to be a senior. So that spot's going to be up there. And, Frankie Sutera, while I'm on his bandwagon for sure, competition is always good. It always pushes guys to do better and to continue to improve. And if that's the case with Marwin Evans, great.
To me, this is a camp where you can expect them to come out firing on all cylinders. They're together. Positions are starting to be established. Yesterday was a big day for potential redshirt candidates and all that to be decided. And we're still 2 weeks away from game day. And all this is already being sorted out. So this team can go in, focus for the next 2 weeks, get in a great game prep for Utah, and really hit the ground running. That's a little bit about camp. Let's dissect the offense. And to start with, the man who needs no introduction, Chucky Football himself. We need a better nickname than that.
Yeah, that's tainted.
You know what? You got ideas, tweet them to us at USU
we need
Front
a better
Row.
one. The Chuckster, Chucky Keaton. What can you say? about this quarterback.
You can say a whole lot. I mean, watch him as he reads plays downfield. Watch his recognition of pressure in the pocket, his ability to make throws. He's developed a quick release now. This guy just continues to impress me. Wednesday at the scrimmage was just awesome. It was fun to watch. He just makes plays. You know, you'll have a D end coming around looking in prime position to swat a pass on a little dump off to the running back, and he just perfectly adjusts his arm angle to get that ball a little bit higher and still to the running back. I mean, the guy's he's just killing it.
The big thing for me is you look at what people have been critical of him in the past, that he has a low point of release, that his footwork isn't that great or anything. He has systematically destroyed the problems that he has had through his career.
Yeah.
And I think it comes back to what Matt Wells and Gary Anderson actually said about him, is he is intelligent in the way he plays football. He understands the game. He knows what he needs to do. And it is getting more and more difficult to find weaknesses in his game.
If anyone really wants to see the progression of Chucky Keaton from his freshman year to where he is now, honestly, look at the quarterbacks during these drills and watch some of our freshmen throw, and then compare that to Chucky Keaton. His read progression is so much faster than those guys. The freshmen kind of get the ball and they lock onto their target, or they only make one or two reads. His reads are boom, 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 out. And it's fast, and it's awfully impressive to watch.
Well, another note that I think you really have to point out about this offense and the progress that they're making during camp, look at the defense that they're going against each day. I mean, even our second string guys are good defense, but going against, when they go 1v1s out there, Chucky Keaton has to make reads and get the ball off against our starting defense, which is experienced, they're fast, and they're tough. And he's still doing it, and they're still getting better. But we're seeing the improvement both in Keaton and in the wide receivers, and I think that's encouraging.
You've seen major amounts of improvement this season. I mean, just between you watched a lot when they started scrimmaging, that you were getting tipped balls, you were getting a lot of stuff getting batted down at the line, and we're watching explosive plays come up when he is, and Keaton is the center of it, where he is realizing exactly where he needs to surgically put that ball for 15, 20 yards or touchdowns.
The thing I really love about the quarterbacks this year, in particular Chucky, I'm going to call him like General Keaton or something. I need a good nickname. This has to happen. The thing I love is look at our schedule, and you tell me where we go into a game where we don't have the best quarterback. Tell me, where's it at?
The only team that I think has a legitimate possibility to claim it is San Jose State, but
and he's just
head-to-head
different.
Yeah, they're different
guy.
kinds of players, and look what our defense did to him last year.
Look, Chucky Keaton.
I mean, granted, he put up numbers, but so did our sack totals.
He was dizzy afterwards. I mean, Chucky Keaton may not have the best arm. He may not be the fastest, but overall, when you look at his
pretty
overall
good
game,
at both of those.
He is. He is the best overall quarterback, I think, in this conference when you compare all those factors. And fortunately, he's ours, and that is just a great luxury to have because we have the best quarterback in every game we're going into, and when you have that general, that field leader, it makes all the difference.
I think one of the biggest questions that people have had with camp now is who are the other playmakers that are going to step up around Keaton, because you look at guys like Matt Austin, Chuck Jacobs, Kerwin Williams, Kellen Bartlett, Cam Webb, even to an extent. These guys are gone. And I think that's the big question in camp is who are the new playmakers stepping up around Chucky Keaton? Obviously, it's a great situation for them regardless because you've got a guy that can get you the ball, who can be a threat in multiple ways. But I think that's what a lot of people are looking for. And we know about Joe Hill. We've talked about Joe Hill. We know what to expect there, that he's going to be a guy. But I think as camp's gone on, we've really seen guys like DJ Tialavea and JoJo Natson. And you know what? Lately, Travis Van Leeuwen has really impressed me. These guys stepping up, recognizing that they've got to become the playmakers. And I think the experience they've had of going against that tough defense of ours is really starting to show.
I think that's the perfect segue to really start talking a little bit about people who are going to be catching the ball and our wide receivers specifically. This was the number one concern. I don't think any of the fans will argue that this wasn't the number one concern we had this year. When you are losing your top 5 receivers from a previous season, it's hard. And it's a lot of unanswered questions. And the thing that gets me about it is there were so many people coming in to watch practices with a critical eye, expecting them all to fail. And, that was just kind of the attitude of some of the people who were out there. They would go out and be like, I know these guys can't be as good as last year. I haven't heard enough. They didn't prove things to me in the past. I'm not giving them a shot this year. I think man for man, the entire core has stood up and said, we're not going to put up with it. And I think, honestly, it comes down to the work ethic and the fact that they're willing to put the time in to make sure that this is going.
What I think you'll see this year that may be different from last year. Last year, you had Matt Austin and Chuck Jacobs and Kerwin Williams. Those were your three defined receivers. I think this year you have a number of guys in both the first and second string that can come onto the field and produce results. I don't think other teams are going to know where that main receiving target is coming from, and I think that can be a luxury that we can afford. When you look at Travis Van Leeuwen, who's had a good camp, Travis Reynolds, you look at guys like Brandon Swindle and Alex Wheat, who definitely had the physical tools. And to be fair to them, they've had moments of brilliance this camp. They really, really have. They have improved tremendously from last year. It's all about consistency with this wide receiving core. And to me, the X factor when you consider the passing game is DJ Talavea at the tight end position.
Yep.
He has been a rock in camp.
Yeah, we've known him for his entire time here as a dominant run blocker. He's been crucial in the running game at just he's like another offensive tackle out there. But now that he's the guy at tight end, the primary pass catching option, we see that he runs great routes. He recognizes how to get open, and I don't think I've seen him drop a ball all camp. He's been spectacular.
And it's been some incredible grabs.
Yes.
It's not just stuff that's hitting him in the chest. It's stuff he's jumping 8-9 feet in the air for. It's stuff he's diving out of bounds, and he's scoring off these things. He is a legitimate passing threat. And I think it is 100%, and this once again goes back to it, I think it is his work ethic saying, this is somewhere I need to improve in order to be able to finish my game out, and I think he's done a great job with it.
You basically have an offensive lineman with wide receiver hands. And, I mean, that's awesome, because you watch him against our defense, he's too big for a safety or a corner to cover. I mean, even Maurice Alexander, who we've talked about multiple times, is just putting the hurt on people. When DJ comes across that metal, even Maurice has at times not been able to bring him down. So you have to switch a linebacker out on him, and I mean, every time he catches the ball, it takes three people to bring him down.
If there's one standout note that I would have to say at this point in camp about the wide receivers, it's that we've seen the progress. It's undeniable. If you saw the first couple practices, it was nerve-wracking.
Agreed.
And now you're seeing receivers making plays, getting open, going up for balls, out-muscling defenders, and they're doing that against this defense, who might be the best defense every time we take the field this year against a team. So let's stay tuned. We might not see really what's going to come to be of these receivers until we actually get on the field against other defenses, because other defenses might really have their hands full with these guys.
You're looking week 1, we're going up against what apparently is a pretty weakened defensive backfield in Utah. We could see some huge numbers popping up
that is the big question, is that this receiving core has yet to produce in a game situation. They'll get their chance, obviously, but everything I've seen has been encouraging to the point where there's still questions, but you can see the capability that is there with this receiving core and in the tight end position.
And the nice thing about this is, do we have any other question marks that we can even talk about on offense at this point? We know what we expect of the O-line. Joe Hill, we know, is going to be a stud if he stays healthy. Joey DiMartino is looking like an absolute breakout in camp.
Biggest shout out you can possibly get there.
And I will say he's looked great in camps before, and has eventually not been a big part of the picture. But you also got to remember,
he's playing against 3 backs.
He was younger. 2, he was behind the likes of Robert Turbin, Michael Smith, and Kerwin Williams, and Joe Hill even for a while. So I think we could still be seeing a very good running back in Joey DiMartino that obviously has been itching to get his shot. And he's going to get it, and it looks like he's grabbing this opportunity by the horns and really making something of it.
When you look at running backs, if there's one statement that is true about Utah State football, is Utah State football produces NFL running backs.
That's what we do.
And Joe Hill looks to have taken that mantle, and he's the undisputed leader of that group, and he's electric.
Yes, no question.
Well,
he just needs to stay healthy.
And even past that, it's a clamoring to see who's going to be playing for your 3 and 4 spots.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to have Robert Marshall. We know he is probably going to be a predominantly blocking back. He'll be a lead blocker a lot of the time, picking up coverage. But I've said it before. The man runs like a fist. He just punches things with his body.
Yeah.
But then you've still got Mookie Lee, who's going to be able to come in as another speed back threat, who apparently has had some pretty good hands out of the backfield as well that we've seen from him.
Yep.
And there's still like 3 other guys that could potentially.
Rashad Hall, junior college transfer.
He's played well.
I mean, he's got the physical tools. You can tell that by watching him.
And the fact is we talked a little bit about Karis Johnson to start this year off, and we were all potentially anticipating him coming and playing this year. He could see a red shirt.
I think that's highly likely.
And then be coming back because of depth.
Yeah,
I mean, that's insane. We are going to have our running backs yet again are going to be. I think they're underrated because once again they're unproven, but I think they're going to be a strength.
It's a
of our
great
team.
problem to have. My favorite stat about Joe Hill. I mean, he averaged 6.3 yards per carry. He averaged 18 yards plus per catch. And you look at our offense, how key that running back is out of the backfield catching it. I mean, when he gets it, and with that line in front of him, he's going to have some big yards.
All right, defensive coordinators at every university we're playing. I want to tip you in on something. The Aggies' first play in whatever half we receive on from the line of scrimmage is going to be a screen pass to a running back. You weren't able to stop it last year. You're not going to be able to stop it this year either.
I agree.
It's every single time. Just watch for it. I don't see them ever going to be able to stop that again.
Unless they completely sell it, we might see one team completely sell out on that. And who knows? I wouldn't put it past it for Matt Wells and Chucky Keaton to have some kind of audible. If they recognize that some team's going to sell out, they're looking like they're cheating over that way on the line of scrimmage, to just completely go the opposite way with it. JoJo, go deep up the right side and have some there. But
it's gonna be brilliant.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's worked so well. And, I mean, Joe Hill's going to carry on that tradition, I think.
Yeah, no, JoJo Natson was another guy who's had a tremendous camp. We didn't talk about him.
I brought him up a few times.
When you look at this offense and really what makes it click, I think it's kind of the unsung heroes, and that is the offensive line.
Can I start singing? I'll start singing if we need to.
Please, go ahead.
No, I cannot stay. This is so pivotal to the success of this year's team.
The most experienced offensive line in the country returns. 5
out
starters
of 5.
return, and they are a confident bunch.
Yeah. Look, it all starts on the lines, and we have got that one solidly taken care of. We have 3 basically superstars in Tyler Larson, Jamie Markosian, and Eric Schultz.
Yep.
All of them all whack last year. And then Kevin and Kyle Wimpy are just behemoths.
Anything but Wimpy.
I mean, you're watching that preseason football game with the Bears and Chargers, and they're talking about DJ Fluker at 6'6", whatever ungodly amount of pounds he weighs. But the Wimpy brothers are in that ballpark of size. Yeah. They're massive, and now they're experienced. They've got some work under their belts. They've had an off season to train and do what they need to do to get better. And, this just could be special.
The thing that really got me about the O-line this year was actually during the first day of practice. I was watching, I believe it was Kyle Wimp, who actually took a step back, and he was working with Bill Vivau and teaching him what to do as far as footwork goes. And it just struck me that you do have an experienced core who knows what they're doing, but that kind of knowledge is so imperative because every single guy that they're training up is going to be able to benefit from that simultaneously.
And again, you're looking at an offensive line that every day is going against a top 10 defense in what Utah State brings back. Utah State had the 26th rushing offense last year, 21st total offense last year, and it does all start up front. And these guys just... That's the only word I can use to describe them. They are just confident. They have that swagger. And I remember Hawaii when they had their Sugar Bowl team that came in here. The thing that struck me about Hawaii, it wasn't Colt Brennan gunslinging it. It wasn't the wide receivers. It was how much swag their lines had. They would break huddle and they would just walk up to the line and they just knew they were going to pancake the guys opposite of them. And this group has that same swagger and that same confidence. And that's what leads me to believe this will be a special year offensively
That's the ultimate, X factor that we have, is that we're waiting to see for sure who these next core of playmakers are going to be. We know we've got DJ Tilavea. We know we've got Joe Hill, and the receivers are stepping up. But you can't forget that whoever the running backs are going to have good holes to run through.
Yes.
And anytime the receivers are lined up out wide, Chucky Keaton is going to have time to throw. And regardless of coverage, even if it's just mediocre wide receivers, if you have enough time out there going against a DB, a receiver can make a move or do what he needs to do and break free. Chucky's good enough to recognize that and either make a play with a throw or make a play with his feet. And that all starts on the lines. Now, moving forward, what we want to do next is, like we did last week with the defense, we're each going to take a stab at 3 under-the-radar players that we think are going to really step forward this year. Now, we may have mentioned them already talking about the offense because, that's what the storylines of camp are.
And the fact is they may not be under the radar for a lot of USU fans, but these are people who are going to stand up and actually make some noise nationwide, and actually you'll see other fan bases know about them.
Yeah, these guys are going to get people talking. When they talk about USU football, they're saying, yeah, that Keaton kid's pretty good. They're got a great defense, but man, you seen that so-and-so, that other guy they got? Man, where'd he come from?
Hey,
this is what we're taking stabs at today.
Fill in that blank.
Now,
Go.
these are in no particular order, right? It's just 3. We each pick 3 guys, and we're saying one sentence of why we think they're going to be great this year. So, Lance, you want to start us off?
Let's do it. Number 1, JoJo Natson. There is a spirit to that kid that you can't match, but he's put in his time. He's shown he's a weapon. I'm really excited to see what he can do against defenses.
Jeff, who do you got?
All right. Leading my pack is Rashad Hall. 1,400 yards, 16 touchdowns in JUCO. He's electric when he gets the ball. He needs time for the game to slow down, and once it does, he'll take off.
First up for me, Joey DiMartino. He has shown some awesome things in camp so far. Looked like a very capable backup. He looks like a guy now that could be a starter if we needed him to.
Number 2, Robert Marshall. Experience is coming through with that guy, but I've said it before. He's my fist-running demon. It's going to be great.
Number 2 for me is DJ Tilavea. Great hands. He's known as a blocking tight end, but he will show people that he's a receiving threat this year.
Again, this is perfect because these are all names that are going to be big this year that people might not have seen or heard much of last year. Maybe not the casual fans. You diehards out there, you're probably thinking, well, these aren't under the radar. You guys are idiots. But just trust us. These are names that not a lot of people might know, but they will. My number 2, same as your number 1, Lance, JoJo Natson. He has shown so well through camp how well he can get open. He has great hands. And he is just so shifty. He's a playmaker waiting to happen.
My final one, number 3, is the same as Jeff's number 2, DJ Tilavea. There is not a weak part to his game. I don't see it. He can catch, he can block, he can run. And the thing that gets him is he was said that he would be in the NFL as a lineman just because of his physical talents. Him catching the ball, you're going to watch him make some noise.
We promise we did not collaborate this before.
We did not tell any of us our 3.
This is totally just off the cuff. My 3rd, Brendan Swindle.
Okay.
Tore up spring. It's all about consistency, and once he gets that, he showed what he can do in spring. He'll be big for Utah State this year on the outside.
My number 3 is another guy whose name's been mentioned already, but Robert Marshall. I know I have 2 running backs in my 3, but we need a power guy like him, both in run blocking and in short yardage situations. If Joe Hill is the lightning of the running back core, Robert Marshall is the thunder.
Ooh, that's. I think that's official on the nicknames
I
now
went
at this
there.
point.
It's a little bit like retro 2000 New York Giants with Tiki Barber and Ron Dane, the Thunder and Lightning. But you know what? We got
That's
that.
fine.
They won a Super Bowl. Or they went to a Super Bowl. They didn't win that one.
That was more than one sentence, by the way.
Oh, come on.
You know what? I cheated on the 3rd one. Again, like we did with our defensive preview, we're doing what our take would be if we were rating our starting players in NCAA Football 14, the video game. Now, like we said last week, if you've seen it, they just got it wrong.
They
with
were
Utah
fools.
State. Just outright a terrible, terrible job that they did in underrating USU. And we're out to fix that. That's what we're doing.
It's our job,
we're
yeah.
giving you clarity. If you want to go and adjust the ratings of your players in the game and set it right, take our advice on this. This is what our takes are. pick your favorite and go with their ratings, or just mix and match. You can do what you want. But let's start with the offensive line, which is a great place to start with any team. We're starting on the left side. Left tackle, Kevin Wimpy. I give him a 75 overall.
I had 73.
78.
Okay. Left guard, Jamie Markosian. 86.
Ooh, I had an 80.
86.
There we go. There's
We're in
Lance
sync
and I being
again.
on the same page again. Now, here we go. Center, Tyler Larson. My highest rated single player on the entire team, either side of the ball, 93.
I had 95. I had him higher.
I also had him at a 95.
All right.
He is still my highest rated on the team.
There you go. There
For
you go.
once, me and you agree
Yeah,
on something.
yeah.
It's kind of weird.
Right guard, Kyle Wimpy. 78.
76.
81.
Okay. Right tackle, Eric Schultz.
Be careful with this one, Matt.
You know what? I was careful because he'll probably hear it and then punch me accordingly if he doesn't like it. But he ought to like it. 91.
Yes!
I had him at a 90.
91.
There we go. See, I mean, look at that. It's just barely behind Larson. I've got him tied for the second highest rated player on the team. So, I mean, this is a guy, first team All-WAC. He's a right tackle, crucial position.
The fact is, he is that good. I mean,
Yes.
he is that good. I think my prediction is you will see him drafted. You will see him playing in the NFL.
I agree. And if he gets drafted by the Bears, I'm just going to have to leave the Front Row Network and go join his entourage back in my homeland of Chicago.
There you go.
I'm sorry, but it'll be the coolest thing ever.
Could you do correspondence for us?
Yeah, I'll call in weekly.
Excellent.
All right, moving to tight end. Now, this is interesting. I want to see where everyone else has him rated, but DJ Tilavea, I have him at an 83.
85.
91.
Whoa!
I'm telling you.
Explain.
He is going to make some noise this year.
He's gonna make noise.
He is my number one on my 5 guys. I thought I am
That's
everything
true.
on his bandwagon because as I said before, I do not see a weak point
And
to his
he
game.
tweeted out to you that he would not let
No,
you down.
I'm
And
serious.
Aggie Nation.
I do not see a weak point
Now,
to his game.
I will say that I think that could very well be a fair rating after a few weeks into the season, but factoring in, things like inexperience, I tried to do this within reason. I know EA Sports didn't use that, but I tried doing it within reason.
Oh, don't tell me I'm
of what
unreasonable.
maybe lack of experience, but also the hype that the coaching staff and what you can just see plainly out there in the field might establish. So
The fact
good
is,
call though.
well, I have not, and this is factoring in last season. What hasn't he done?
yeah,
He's caught for touchdowns. He's made difficult passes. We know he's a run blocker, and he has shown up more probably in camp than any other member on the team, and it's because of the work he's put in.
also fun fact: his freshman year at USU, he was my bowling teammate in bowling class.
Nice.
Dude can throw a ball
couldn't-
very, very hard.
You couldn't spot him 2 points for bowling?
Well, I mean, look, 83 is pretty good.
All right,
I'm
all
going to
right,
stand by
all
it.
right.
And you know what? We were pretty dang good in that class. We were right at the top of the standings every week. Moving ahead to wide receiver, Travis Reynolds at the first spot. I give him a 79.
I had the same thing, 79.
I gave him a 79.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Travis Reynolds, the first person to bring the three of us together.
Thanks, Travis.
All in unison. Travis, way to go, man. Get on this program. That's what we need. We'll have to tell that story, obviously, how, Travis Reynolds, the first guy that we all agree upon, is awesome. All right, moving to the number 2 spot, Travis Van Leeuwen. I give a 78.
80.
81.
Wow. So Van Leeuwen gets higher than Reynolds in both you guys' book.
I just think he has more consistent hands. to this
Okay,
point.
that's fair.
That's why I give him a little bit of a higher rating. His hands have been better.
Reynolds has speed. Van Leeuwen has hands. I think there's a reason.
I think they're both good. I think they complement each other well.
The fact is both of them have done a fantastic
I
job.
think Van Leeuwen's a great route runner as well.
Yeah.
Van Leeuwen's improvement in camp, between the scrimmage Wednesday and practice on Thursday, he looks like he may have come possibly the farthest of any of the wide receivers in camp. And it was tempting for me I wanted to rate him a little higher, but I'm trying to stay reserved as well. And seeing as how Reynolds is kind of the number one guy right now, obviously that could change, but that's where I'm at. Here's where it gets interesting. Number 3, JoJo Natson. I have him same as Van Leeuwen, a 78.
I have him at an 80.
I'm throwing him an 84.
Wow.
Speed?
I'm a huge
Speed,
fan.
hands, and
Speed,
ability to
hands,
get open.
and honestly, and I realize it's one of those undefinable things, but it comes down in my mind to work ethic. and you've watched that translate for all the scores I've given, defense and offense, he is not going to let himself fail. And I respect that.
Here's one note about JoJo that really caught my eye in Wednesday's scrimmage. They threw a fade to him in the end zone, which was interesting to me because you normally think, all right, we're going to throw that pass to 6'3" Matt Austin, who can go up, has the hands, and can bring down pretty much any ball. But you think about it, if there's not a safety cheating over to that side in that corner, and you've got a lone one-on-one with JoJo Naston, even if it's a corner that's 6'1", just towering over him, you get him making a couple moves on that guy, and if he can break free and get open, he has the speed to immediately accelerate to the back of the end zone, and it's kind of an intriguing thing to me right now to see if that will work throughout the season because, like I said, if the safety's not there to help on the play, JoJo's going to have the ability to really get open in the short field like that because that cornerback has to be protecting the inside too.
And the fact is I've heard it was just an incredibly placed ball as well.
It was.
If you've got Keaton delivering the passes to these receivers, I think you're going to watch a lot of them tear it up. And I will firmly state that having a quarterback like Chucky Keaton is going to make these guys so much better.
Yes. Now we go to the two heavy hitters, running back and quarterback. Starting out with running back Joe Hill. This was tough for me because he's got some hype after a good last season, but hasn't been the feature guy yet. I give him an 84.
I had 85.
I'm going 87.
Okay. And now the big one. I think this is obviously the biggest name with Utah State football. Quarterback Chucky Keaton. 91.
I give the general a 92.
91.
There we go.
And I give that because I'm expecting a 95 out of him for his senior year.
That's
my personal challenge for Chucky Keaton right there.
Now, for me, that all averages out to 83.3, which comparing that to where I had the defense, I believe they were an 83.6. So all in all, I feel the offense has some question marks, but at the top, we've got a lot of great players in the likes of Keaton, Larson, Schultz, Hill, Tilavea, Markosian. I mean, this has a lot of talent on this unit and a lot of guys with the potential to do some really good things this year.
The big thing for me is I actually think I came out with a higher average for my offense than I did for my defense, which is weird, except for the fact that I know how the defense plays together.
Yes.
And that is the reason I believe in our defense the way I do. Our offense has not been in a game and shown that they can do that yet. I believe they can, which is why I think that they are going to be as capable on an individual level. The talent level is there. Once they mesh as a unit in game, there's going to be hell to pay for any team we go up against, offense and defense.
Let's just think of one potential scenario, too. Imagine if the Wimpy brothers both performed this season just like an 83 would. Think how much more dominant that makes our offensive line. I mean, it's intriguing to think. And real quick, while we're on it, go on our Facebook page. And if you've got your own thoughts of how this would shake down, whether it's offense, defense, special teams, go on our Facebook page and comment on there. Let us know what you think about what the ratings should be, who you think should be rated where. And if you've got a few guys that are you think will be under the radar this year, let us know. Let's get the Facebook thing going.
Well, in fact, I know that there are people who listen to this program who have updated their rosters to play the game. Post your rosters up. Let us know what you actually are playing with out there. Unless it's one of those weird kids who put everyone at 100 just so we could win every game. In which case, good on you. I mean, it's nice to see the Aggies win. But let's get your opinions out there. We'd love to report on it.
Now, Aggie fans, it's the time of the program where you get to chime in. This is the tweet sheet.
Andrew leads us off. He says, how close is Harrison to locking up the number 2 spot? He really looks solid. Any worries about injuries on our offense?
I think Harrison has a pretty decent hold on the number 2 spot. I mean, he's performed all right, but I think a lot of it is due to the lack of anyone else standing up because there's a lot of youth behind him. That's the thing. We have a senior, a junior, and 3 freshmen on the roster right now at quarterback. So I think Harrison is going to be the guy. And, that might not be a terrible thing. Let's just hope that we only see him late in games. No offense to him, but we need that Keaton guy. He's a stud.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about any worries about injuries on our offense, if Chucky Keaton goes down, that is a big, big loss.
Yes.
So, yes, there are injury concerns when it comes to who you don't want to get injured, but to this point, I think the team is healthy in camp, and there are no injury concerns that I know of.
We're pretty miraculously healthy as far as I can tell. We haven't really had anyone who has had to sit out more than 1 or 2 practices at this point. And you look around the state, we're lucky.
Yeah.
So
really everywhere. I mean, the training camp injuries happen,
frequently.
a lot more often than you'd like. And yeah, we've been lucky this year. Really, it feels like the last couple years we've done all right. I mean, we had the 2010 season where we lost Robert Turbin and Stanley Morrison, but those were kind of freak off-season things rather than training camp injuries. So far, so good. Let's hope that continues.
We have a friend in Wisconsin, of all places, who tweeted in and wanted us to know that they made an effigy, a cornfield of Gary Anderson. And so my only comment on that, I guess, is if Matt Wells replicates or even succeeds what Anderson did, I'll be more than willing to carve a couple cornfields with his wonderful picture in it.
There we go. Look, you folks out in Wisconsin, appreciate him. He's a heck of a coach. You'll love him to death. I still am eternally grateful for everything he did here. Yep. So, yeah, you better be carving him in cornfields. That's all I got to say.
And you're beating Ohio State this year.
Yeah, do that too.
Yeah. Derek tweets in. He says, "Who are some unsung heroes from when the team wasn't good, and perhaps maybe some moments we remember as well?"
Ooh.
The name that first comes to my mind is Kevin Robinson,
who was at practice.
Who was at practice today, and we got to listen to him.
We tried listening to him,
somewhat.
But he's very soft-spoken.
He had moments where those teams were just awful, like in every sense of the word. Like this third string on our current team would beat the first string on that team by 40 points.
Oh, 2006, yeah.
It
wouldn't even be close.
But Kevin Robinson...
Who was our quarterback to start that year?
Leon Jackson III.
Good old Leon. He's a good friend of mine. I can't disparage
I
Leon.
really, I
feel bad for him.
That's the thing, is I keep looking back at that season. We had some good players on that team.
There's a few good players here and there.
That is the only season...
you got to have a team.
That is the only season where I have walked out of an Aggie game. It was the Idaho game. We hadn't scored a touchdown like in 6 games. We scored 2, and then Idaho scored like 45 straight points, and I couldn't take it.
That game was actually one of only 2 home USU football games that I've missed in the last 7 years.
I have never been
believe.
so depressed.
That was one, and then the other one, I was dying in the hospital. We beat La Tech that day.
What year was Jarrett Bush on the team? Was he on the team?
I believe 2005 was his last season.
My big guy that I remember personally was Kevin Curtis.
Yeah.
I remember the funny thing was, and I won't give this as the start of this trend, but he was a walk-on. And I remember he caught a pass over the top of everyone, went for like a 70-yard score, and my dad was standing up and throwing his hands up going, "Put him on scholarship! Put him on scholarship!" And there were already NFL scouts there to be checking him out. I wish he had had more of an NFL career because he had all the skills for it. But
he did have a good run, though, for a bit.
And I really think, and as I said, I don't think it was necessarily the start, but it's just that nice trend of walk-ons coming on and making a difference at this university and eventually becoming some of the stars for the team.
Yeah. If I was picking out one player that really stood out to me from when we were really bad, and assuming it's the Derek I think it was tweeting in, he was there alongside me for a lot of these games, but Jake Hutton. He was a guy, I think he was another one of those walk-ons initially, but there wasn't a lot of tough, bruising linebackers on the defense back then, and he was one of them. And he was, he had a few good years. His later part of his career was kind of riddled with injuries, but I mean, at least for that 2006 season, which was my freshman season at Utah State, he was somebody fun to watch.
Is there any moments from those despot years that you can remember stood out to you?
Davon Hall's pick 6 against Wyoming in 2007. It was on the Mountain Network, which was still pretty new. It might have been their first season, and they were very bad at what they did. So the cameras were showing like the Wyoming coach on the sideline as the play began to develop, and then Hall picks off the pass, and they didn't pan back to the play on the field until he had the ball for like 3 seconds already. And so he's taking it to the house, and we're watching it in my apartment, freaking out. And then he scores, thinking, we got a shot in this game. But it was still really cool and exciting, but also one of those, what the hell just happened kind of moments.
I don't know. It's actually kind of rough for me because I actually started out fairly predominantly as a USU basketball fan. And I would go to the football games. I honestly think that Kevin Curtis moment was probably one of my earliest football memories.
Nice.
Because the thing is I'm a third-generation Aggie. My dad and grandfather both graduated here, and they have been to every game. My grandpa's gone to every single game for a long time. And it's just the cool thing for me at this point that kind of goes and memorized is the fact that they've slogged through it, and now we are where we are. And the three of us can go to games together and watch a product on the field that we're all proud to be here for.
My moment from those teams isn't necessarily a moment on a field because, frankly, I just prefer to forget those ever existed. I am big on uniforms. I consider myself a uniform connoisseur. The idea that you could put Aggies on the back of every jersey was just it represented how bad we were. And let's be honest, anything but the players' names or just leaving it blank is a terrible idea. Absolutely terrible idea. It looks so high schoolish, or even like Pop Warner football when you do something like that. It just makes you look cheap. And that's exactly what the product was at the time. It was just cheap, not very well supported, not very well funded, and
It's a terrible font too.
it was a bad font. Just everything about it. It was like a microcosm of everything that was bad with Utah State football. And it's no coincidence that the first thing Gary Anderson did was when he was hired, he put the players' names back on the jersey. That's why Gary Anderson was a genius. All right, moving on. Now, guys, a special hand for this next question comes to us from wide receiver Alex Weed himself.
All
Alex,
right.
yeah,
Getting in on the show.
I like it. He wants our opinion on what uniforms they should wear for the opener against Utah.
I'm very opinionated on this one.
It can't be all blue, just FYI.
Regardless.
Okay.
He doesn't say which ones will they wear. It's which ones should they wear.
Go for it.
They're striping out. They're going red and white all over there. So if we show up with any white on, it's going to be represented by their fan base. Blue, and if you got to get the pewter in there, it's fine. But I would love it if we could show up in all blue uniforms. Because that's us. That's our identity. And it's the first jersey and the first uniform combo that we ever saw this generation of the team play in, because that's what we opened with against SUU last year. I would want to see it opened up that way again this year.
For me, I hadn't even thought of the part of them striping the stadium with half of them being in white, but even before that, my gut feeling was pewter on pewter. Let's go gray. Let's go with it with the blue helmets, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
We got to rep the Aggie blue, but man, those pewter uniforms are slick.
And they are, don't forget this, they are undefeated in those uniforms. And, they wear that, they wore it for the La Tech game last year, and yeah, knock on wood for sure. I agree with that. And my other thing was to go blue helmets, white, and then blue, because I just think that looks so good.
The blue, white, blue is a great
It
Blue,
combo.
white,
looks
blue is
so
cool.
good, and I just want to break that awful game we had against BYU last year. I want to break the karma of that and make those uniforms a good combo because they just look so slick.
Honestly, I think at this point, as long as they're wearing a blue helmet, you could really put anything on
We
underneath.
love the blue helmets.
Yeah,
Blue
I
helmets
do
are
love the
so
blue
You
helmets.
get the blue helmets. You could go pewter blue, white blue, whatever you need. But you got to rep the blue that game.
Brett tweets in. He says, "Who would you rather beat, Utah or BYU? Obviously, we would like to beat both, but if you had to pick one, who would it be?"
Utah.
I got to say BYU. Utah, it's a huge game, but they also are in a spot where they're going to be struggling at the bottom end of the Pac-12 for a bit.
fair.
And I think they'll still win a lot of recruiting battles on that premise. But BYU right now is, I think, a little bit closer to our level as far as record goes. And we need to kick them down a peg.
To be fair, are we talking about this season specifically
Yes.
or just in general?
No, this season.
This season, I cannot overstate the importance of winning that first game. Because I think that if we were to lose one of the two, that would mean a loss to BYU at home.
Exactly.
But, yeah,
Can't do that.
You can't do that. But honestly, I don't know.
Here's the thing.
I don't know.
The nation, no one in the nation is going to totally expect us to go into a Pac-12 tough environment on the road and win.
It's
That is
almost
a very
unforgivable.
excusable loss, and we've got a great opportunity to rebound the next week with Air Force, and then a week after that with Weber State. However, when it comes to BYU, this is a big in-state game that we've narrowly lost the last 2 years, that we have at home this time with a team that is closer to our level record-wise. We need to punch them in the mouth and win that football game.
I concede my point, Matt. You are correct.
I will disagree with Matt here. So, Tristan tweets in. He says, personality-wise, who is your favorite wide receiver? I almost feel this is a setup, but we're going to go with it. Do you want to start us off?
Oh, man.
Or do you want me to start
off? I can't say, are we going like on a personal level knowing them? Because I don't really...
All
I've
right.
got limited experience
from the exposure we've seen so far.
All right.
Just who is our favorite?
Well, okay.
Not favorite.
I
but
perceive this question to be personality-wise because he even says it. It's got to be Alex Wheat for me. And we know Wheat. He's a good friend of the program. He tweeted in tonight. Here's the thing. He's a much maligned wide receiver because everyone sees the physical tools that he has. And people go, this guy should be great. He should be our Quentin Patton or Noel Grigsby or Kenneth Scott. Consistency, I think, has plagued him a little bit. He's had moments where he's been spectacular in camp. He's caught some great balls. I think he's getting there. I think people forget he was just a sophomore last year. Enough about on-the-field stuff. He'll get there. I think he'll have the moment where it clicks and he'll just all of a sudden shine. Here's the thing. We've talked about this. Matt's even contemplating writing an article for USU Front Row about this. The value of Alex Wheat, I think, is tremendous because of his Twitter game. And people can make fun of that all they want, but that's a real thing. And that matters this day and age with social media. And the way he represents Aggie Nation and engages with fans, with recruits, with guys on the team, and even just talking with him personally, like, I seriously just wanted to say, let's chill sometime, because he was just that engaging of a person. He was fun to talk to, and I think he's great.
Let me take it a step above that.
Okay.
A lot of people look to him to have the physical traits to be able to make things happen. I think the number one best attribute about Alex Wheat is his charisma.
He's very charismatic.
And I think that comes across in Twitter. I think it comes across. You look at who the coaches are entrusting recruits to when they come for visits.
Oh, yeah.
He's up there on the list. His interaction and not only that, but he's motivated. And this year he's stepped his game up. And I've said it several times in the program already. The people willing to put in the work ethic. You watched him, and there's video of him and tweets of him all summer of him, DJ Tialavea, and Joey DiMartino working out together because they all knew what they needed to do to stand up this season. I think Wheat, in my mind, has epitomized what Aggie Nation itself is all about, regardless of what the product he has put on the field is. And I think he's going to surprise and blow some people away this year.
I agree.
He is what Aggie spirit is.
When he has the moment, he'll get his chance. There will come a chance where he will be in a game. He'll have the ball thrown to him. If he produces in that moment, I think that's all it will take. I think once that happens, it will go for him, and he will take off.
I am so looking forward to his first touchdown catch.
It's going to be exciting. I'm just going to throw another guy in personality-wise. We saw his first touchdown catch already, and it was awesome. Jojo
Natson.
The likable guy. I've like kind of met him a time or two, and yeah, cool guy.
Can you explain to me why Eric Schultz body slammed him to the ground?
I'm just gonna say he probably had it coming.
No, I think
I know Schultz, and he is a merciful man, so he wouldn't have done it for no reason.
For me, I think that's another one of the standouts as far as work ethic goes. I've talked about it already in the program. Just, and even beyond that, as a team this year, that work ethic and that desire to improve themselves and prove something to the world, I think it is.
I almost feel
phenomenal.
like in some ways we should give a shout out to Travis Van Leeuwen, who there's a backstory with Travis and the show that maybe is for another time. Let's just say we were not aware that the football team was listening to us until Travis Van Leeuwen explained it to our sound engineer's wife, and so it kind of got to us that way. And so we're grateful for Travis for informing us of that. He's a good friend of the program. They all are.
God,
man,
this receiver corps this year has some swagger.
This tweet sheet
this
today
is going
is
good.
Just, man, it's getting us talking, dude. All we need is get people to tweet us. We could talk for days. Gosh, can I just say, the tweet sheet, totally my favorite part of the show.
I agree.
Hey.
And remember, at USU Front Row on Twitter is where you can reach
That's
it.
the plug.
Use the hashtag tweet sheet.
We do this every week.
Jeff, do we have any more tweets?
Sadly, we do not.
Dang it.
It's depressing. Aggie Nation, as always, like we said, tweet us often, engage with us on Twitter, on Facebook too. We'll try and be more active on that. USU Front Row, the website. There's tons of places to reach us. And like Matt said, I mean, the tweet sheet really is probably our favorite segment we do.
Aggie fans, we want to wrap up the show with a new way of finishing things up, because not every week do we have a rant for you, but I feel there's still a way that we can wrap things up nicely. So what we're going to do is introduce a new segment where each of the three of us go around the table and give one final thought, maybe along the lines of the Jerry Springer final thought, but less insightful, because who could really reach that level of intellect?
No strippers.
No strippers.
I was going to be like, but Matt does have his shirt off.
You were looking at me funky. I was like,
I couldn't resist.
So we like to bring you, for the first time, last words. Lance, you want to start us off?
Let's do it. Last words for the night are, let go of the scheduling comparisons between us and going into a more difficult schedule this year in conference. Statistically speaking, Utah State's tenure in college football started when Gary Anderson got hired on as a coach. Especially last year, when we were able to dominate competition, went 11-2. People want to point back and go, oh, it was the WAC, it was the WAC. I've said it before, the WAC was rated higher by 5 spots in the End Massey ratings than the Mountain West Conference was, and I do not think there is a single team on our schedule this year that is more difficult than the top 25 teams that we beat last year. We can do the exact same thing this year against this schedule.
My final thoughts for the day. If you want to question whether Matt Wells has complete control and the complete respect of this team, go to camp and go to practice and watch him and listen to him speak at the end of it. Today we had the chance to watch the team gather around him, and all eyes were on him, and there was complete and total respect and command. There are no worries with me with this coaching staff and with Matt Wells in particular. The man knows what he's doing, and more importantly, he has total and complete control and respect of this team.
My last words might be a little bit ironic, but I'm just trying to grab a hold of a situation and put an end to it. Aggie fans, we got to stop talking so much about BYU. They do stupid things. We hate them. We get it. But there are so many awesome things going on at Utah State University, whether it's the success of the football program now, the excitement of this season, joining the Mountain West, our new logo, our awesome uniforms, our Nike sponsorship, the Spectrum, Stu Morrill. We have so many awesome things that are all things Aggie to talk about, and it's just annoying to talk about them down south and worry about what they're doing, because it's so much better up here, and it's so much more fun to talk about the Aggies.
Solid thoughts all around, guys. Remember to hook up with us on the internet at USU Front Row and visit the website, usufrontrow.com. Matt promises there will be content up there for you to read.
Soon.
Yes. So make sure you give that a look, as well as YouTube, /USU Front Row. That's our YouTube page. And thanks as always for listening to the Front Row Show. I'm Jeff Browning.
I'm Lance Rasmussen.
And I'm Matt Sonnenberg. Go Aggies!
I would almost high-five you, but I feel that would be disappointing considering.
It would be. I'm not going to lie.
We need to go with something
there are certain things in life that you can just be sure of, and one of them in my life at this point is any high five not from Matt Sonnenberg is going to be a disappointment.
Real quick. Hey, Aggie fans, thanks again for listening to this episode of the Front Row Show. Be sure to download all our archived episodes on iTunes. Follow us on Twitter at USU Front Row. Like our page on Facebook at facebook.com/USU Front Row, and subscribe to us on our new YouTube channel at youtube.com/USU Front Row. Go Aggies.